Today we're in Macomb, Illinois. We're headed over to the Kibbe Wildlife Station in Hamilton, Illinois, where we're going to be banding some bluebills with Dr. Al Afton from LSU in Louisiana. Al comes up to this location on the Mississippi River every year because the largest concentration of Lesser Scaup migrate through here during the springtime. And Al has been collecting data on this Scaup migration for about the last 20 years.
Yeah, so Al's been accumulating a lot of data over the years. They've banded upwards of 20,000 bluebills on this pool. And so yesterday morning we set out, we checked the traps, we netted about 130 plus bills in the morning and banded them. And then, much to our surprise, we went out in the afternoon and we netted over 200 bills in the afternoon, and we didn't get done to processing those birds till probably about 9:30 or so last night. So pretty busy day.
Well, my name's Al Afton. I'm an adjunct professor at Louisiana State University. I work in the Louisiana Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Unit that's sponsored by the U.S. Geological Survey, and we've been working at Pool 19 on Scaup since I guess about 2000. I had a graduate student that did some work in 2000, 2001, and 2002. We skipped a year in 2003 and we started banding in 2004. Anyway, we started banding in 2004. We painted birds to try to look at how their condition might influence how they migrate in spring. We color mark, use 4 colors, 2 colors at a time. Heavy birds were marked one color, light birds another color. And then we switched after 2 weeks of banding colors so we could actually look at a time reference. And the idea was that folks north of here would see marked birds and report them to us, and we could look at how rate of movement varied by body condition. And we informed all the state agencies and NGOs and bird groups north of us. We got a few sightings, but not enough to do anything statistically, and we found out that the painting wore off. So in 2005 we banded again, and we used colored nasal saddles which are attached on the bill through the nares, and same kind of thing, used 4 colors. We got a few more sightings, but not enough really to do high-powered statistics, and so we started satellite telemetry in the following years, and we marked 60 females with satellite telemetry, and females of different weights were marked so we could look at body condition effects, and we were able to identify their migration corridors, where they breed, how they migrated back in the fall, did they come back to Pool 19 or otherwise, and where they went in the winter. And then the radios lasted long enough that we got 2 spring migrations again. So the question was, do they return to Pool 19 in the spring and return to their breeding grounds? And
yeah, so we just emptied 2 traps here on the pool, and grabbed about 50 to 60 scaup, and we're going to take them up and weigh them, check the corn, and we're going to band them, and then we'll release them shortly. So yeah, just right around 50-60 birds.
This here is a hen scaup. We just brought back all the cages with all the birds that we just collected out of the traps, and we separated all the hens out into a cage on their own. We did that for a couple of reasons. One is that the males can tend to gang up on the females, so we separate the females out to keep that from happening. Secondly, we want to band the females first. And again, that's for a couple of reasons. One is to band them first so they can get released back to the water as quickly as possible, reducing the amount of stress they undergo through this whole process. And that's due because the ratio of males to females in the population is 6 to 1. And because females are such a smaller percentage of the population, and because they're the ones who are laying the eggs and raising the next brood of scaup, they get a little more TLC than the males do.
We've been banding since we started, and the objectives there are to look at survival of birds. We weigh each bird, so we're looking at what effect, if any, that body condition, which is indexed by body weight, has on survival. And another big issue is with some of the statistical models, we're trying to determine whether hunting mortality is additive mortality. That is, if bag limits are reduced and seasons are reduced, are we able to increase survival? And what we found so far is that survival has been pretty much constant throughout the whole period. And looking at historical banding data here on Pool 19 and elsewhere in the mid-continent, survival really hasn't changed since about 1961 when good banding started. So that tells us that the problem with the decline that caused these lower bag limits we see is a reproductive issue. It's not a survival issue, and thus likely management through hunting regulations is not going to have a great impact on the future population. The reproductive aspects are probably what we ought to focus on in terms of management.
My name is Leon. I'm from Missouri. I'm getting ready to approach the trap and block the throat of the trap so the scaup can't get out. So.
That based on our survival studies and other studies, that the survival of females is lower than males. It's about 15 to 20% lower than males. And studies that have looked at period survival, like during the reproductive period, have found that that's when there is a large difference in survival of the sexes. Males have high survival during the breeding season, and females have low survival. And in one study, they compared females that nested versus females that didn't nest, and those females that nested had a much lower survival than females that didn't nest. So the big factor in survival seems to be survival during the breeding period. Females are on a nest and vulnerable to predators, and they also get in pretty low body condition because they use lipid reserves to lay eggs, and then they have to rear their broods up in the boreal forest and regain condition to migrate out of there before freeze-up comes, so they're under the crunch, really. So if you look at sex ratio in the eggs and in the ducklings, it's 50-50, so this differential survival, lower survival of females, ends up in the adults with a biased sex ratio. And it's roughly continentally maybe 2 to 3 males per female, and that's probably the most biased sex ratio of any of our North American ducks. But in our trapping here, we only catch about 10% females and 90% males, which is a much higher bias than what's in the population. And we also have done counts on the river here, and we find that the ratios in the counts are much less biased than the traps. So we know there's a significant trap bias, that females are just less likely to be caught.